Welcome to the Ken and Mike Show. Welcome back.
Thanks for joining us right here.
Tonight is going to be an incredible show, an exciting show. We have an awesome guest tonight that's ready to come on live with us tonight, so you do not want to miss this show, Kenny.
No way. David Horowitz. He's coming up, and he's going to talk about his new book, Dark Agenda, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great conversation. So stick around right here on the Ken and Mike Show.
Engaging, enlightening, the Ken and Mike Show. And now, Ken and Mike.
And welcome to the show. We are so excited.
I am so excited for tonight. I'm jumping out of my seat.
And we're so glad that you guys are here. You're joining us on Facebook Live tonight. It's going to be a great show. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity to talk to somebody that is amazing in his field. And we have David Horowitz, and he is an American conservative writer. He is a founder and president of the think tank, the David Horowitz Freedom Center, editor of the center's publication, Front Page Magazine, and director of Discover the Networks, a website that tracks individuals and groups on the political left. And he has a number of best-selling books, and we're talking about one of those books tonight, and it's The Dark Agenda, and it's going to be amazing. David Horowitz, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Ken and Mike Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So tell Dave, I mean, man, this book is impeccable timing. When did you start to even think about writing this book? When did that start to take place?
Good question, but probably in the last 6 months.
Wow. And this this brought, I mean, obviously, you're coming from a Jewish perspective, correct?
Oh, I wouldn't call it that. I'm an agnostic, non-observant Jew. So I'm a Jew by tribe.
Sure, but we
So no, and a former radical. I mean, I see it. You know, I've probably written 2 million words about leftists, having been a leftist at the outset of my career, as it were, and seeing the left as a threat to the existence. Well, we're so close to losing America. The Democratic Party looks very much like the party of my parents, which is to say a communist party. They're racists. They lie all the time. And they don't like this country. They don't want it to have borders. They don't like democracy. They want a one-party state. So what this book did, I was asked to write this by Chris Ruddy, who was the creator of Newsmax.
Oh, okay.
And he thought it would be interesting to have an outsider perspective on all this. And what I discovered, the first thing, I kind of knew this already, but as I got into this book, particularly the 4th chapter, which is about Christian America, this is a Christian country. That is, it was created. All the ideas that we call American are Christian ideas: equality, inclusion, tolerance, pluralism. These all not only with Christians, but with Protestant Christians. America is a product of the Protestant Reformation, and it's inconceivable that any group, atheists, certainly not Muslims, Catholics, could have created this country. So the attack on Christians, which is more virulent than you would get as an impression from the news, is an attack on America and its foundations. Already they've driven, well, starting in the 60s, they drove prayer out of the schools and Bible readings and you can't teach K-12 kids that the Pilgrims were Christians. You can't teach them that the thanksgiving they gave was to God. Now, I'm an agnostic, but I realized long ago, actually, when I left the left and rethought America, you can't have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if there's no God. If government gives you those rights, government can take them away.
Wow. Yes.
So that's the first thing I was confronted with, that there has to be a God. And since I was an agnostic, I had to figure out how I related to that. And by agnostic, I just mean I don't know.
Right. Well,
And
that
so,
was my question. Why are you defending Christianity?
well, because it's America.
Amen.
Amen.
If you love America, you have to understand the contribution that Christians made and why the assault on Christians, as we'll get into, is really an assault on America. We're at war with people, secular leftists. Well, there's also a lot of Christian leftists. And Islamic Nazis who hate us and want to destroy us and are succeeding. I have to say, when I see the whole Democratic, here you have this Ilhan Omar,
Oh,
a
yes.
3-month member of Congress, speaking before an organization that was created by terrorists. That's CARE, which was created by Hamas, and is still it's a propaganda arm of the terrorist network. So she's speaking in front of this group, and she converts 9/11 into an attack on Muslims, and the whole Democratic Party supports her and attacks Trump for being critical. This woman should be a hated, alien. She should be treated that way.
Yes.
She's arrogant, she's stupid, and she's a jihadist. She's given a lot of fundraising speeches for this Hamas organization.
Well, that's part of their plan. They want to destroy us from the inside out.
Well, but there must be 20 or 30 of them in the Congress now. Hopefully
Yeah.
they'll all be gone.
That's what's
Be
crazy.
gone by 2020.
Well,
Anyway, I don't know how we got off on this, but look, 98%.
well, you're on the topic. I mean,
98
why do we support
98
Islam in America?
98%, 98%, because if you're critical, you're an Islamophobe.
Ah.
98%, 98% of the people who settled this country and created the United States and everything that we describe as American, 98% were Protestant Christians.
That's right.
That's incredible.
That's pretty important to understand. Yet so the result of driving religion out of the schools and making it unmentionable virtually is that the leaders of the Democratic Party have no idea what our democracy is about. You have Elizabeth Warren, who's supposed to be a professor. Of course, we know
She's also Native American.
professor. That's what I'm right. She thinks that democracy in this country means one person, one vote.
Right.
No, it doesn't. And this is the big divide between right and left. Christians understand, or should understand, and there's a lot of leftist Christians who don't understand this at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if you I actually wrote, when I wrote Radical Son, my autobiography, and there I acknowledged that, to me, the story of the first chapters of Genesis, and particularly the story of the Garden of Eden, is the wisest insights into where we are of anything I've ever read. And one of the things that makes it wise is it understands that the root cause of social problems is us.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, think of the story. It's human beings inhabiting a paradise that was better than the Green New Deal. You didn't die. You didn't die. You didn't have pain in childbirth and the fruit dropped from the trees. But in order to stay in paradise, in order to have social justice and harmony, you could not eat of that tree,
Right.
of the knowledge of good and evil. You could not want to know evil. But people do want to know evil. And they are corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
That's the percent. And so when Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden for eating of that tree, the God put an angel with a flaming sword at the entrance to prevent them from returning.
Right.
And the whole history of socialism and leftism and progressivism and communism, which are all the same thing, is an attempt to create the kingdom of heaven on earth through human agency by getting enough political power without a divine intervention.
Wow.
And if you remember one other thing, the serpent seduced Adam and Eve by saying, if you eat of that tree, you shall be as God.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez
Oh, our
opens
favorite person.
her empty-headed mouth, she dramatizes the arrogance, the over stupidity of wanting to be as God. She's going to remake the whole country, do it in 10 years. All she needs is absolute power from the state. And the frightening thing is that the Democratic Party seems ready to give it to her.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. We're speaking with David Horowitz. He's an American conservative writer. He's the founder and president of the think tank, the David Horowitz Freedom Center, editor of the Center publication, Front Page Magazine, and director of Discover the Networks, a website that tracks individuals and groups on the political left. And we're talking about his new book, Dark Agenda, The War to Destroy Christian America. And I emphasize Christian America. And there's one thing that I heard you quote before. You talked about somebody who said, somebody else said that religion poisons everything, but you said it's people that poison religion. Am I quoting that
Yeah,
correct?
it was my late friend Christopher Hitchens, who was the most entertaining of the new atheists. But like every leftist, he got it upside down. The subtitle of his book was How Religion Poisons Everything.
Right.
But it's people that poison religion. And they also poison progressive movements and government. And, government or these revolutionaries are just the same people who caused all the problems in the first place, but you give them enormous power. So
Right.
they're incredibly dangerous. I mean, imagine just the scheme that Cortez has to eliminate, and she's so unanchored in reality. I mean, when she came out with the Green New Deal, she was going to eliminate emissions within 10 years. Now she's down to 50% of emissions with no explanation of how she got from one to the other. So they put a gun to your head. You're going to die. The planet is going to disappear in 12 years.
I think the flatulence she speaks of the Green New Deal that comes out of her mouth.
Wasn't this an Inca or an Aztec fantasy? They had a date when the world was going to end. But in 12 years, unless you give us the power to do anything we want. And one of the things she wanted was to eliminate gasoline cars. How many gasoline cars do you think there are in America? 250 million?
150.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
300 million? So within 10 years, she's going to force people, because the government is going to order it, to give up their gas cars, take a financial bath, give up cars that they're actually attached to, although that would be way over her head. And in exchange for electric cars, you think that you can accomplish that without instituting a police state.
That was
martial
gonna be
law.
one of my questions. Is a police state
And
coming?
so, if you'll excuse me, these dumbass conservatives call that socialism. That's not socialism. That's communism.
Yes.
That's what it is. These people
Yep.
are Stalinists, all of them, and they're too ignorant to realize it. Actually, I mean, you have to give them that. They don't really understand what they're doing.
Do you that's a great point. I mean, they're ignorant in that aspect. And what is it? Do you think it's because of what they've been brainwashed with? Because there's especially with how old is Andrea Cortez? She's
Like
she's
22,
yeah,
23
so
years old, right?
she comes from the newer age, if you will.
She's 30.
Okay.
Oh, is she
She's
that?
29.
29, that's right.
I
Yep.
mean, but they've been brainwashed in the universities, and that they're shoving this stuff down their throats.
Well, the universities, they might as well, Yale might as well be, rename itself the University of Havana or Tehran.
Yeah.
These aren't universities anymore. I'm not talking of coaching centers. And I mean that literally, if anybody's listening who thinks that's a hyperbole. It's not a hyperbole at all. I mean, we've reached the point. Now, I can't appear on a college campus, and people like me can't. Because even if you get on campus, they turn your appearance and whatever kind of intellectual talk you had prepared into a circus.
Right.
So
Yes.
there's no First Amendment, and they're such liars. I think the most contemptible people in the United States are college administrators.
There's no truth.
If I talk about one of the tragedies of our time, is student debt. Where did that come from? It came from the left. Born Pell, who was a senator from, I think it was Rhode Island, and a liberal, had the idea that we should have government guaranteed student loans.
That's ridiculous.
Well, the minute these administrators saw that, they said, we can raise tuition as much as we want. We can do all the projects we want. Of course, a main aspect of our projects will be to building palaces for the Black Students Union and other so-called marginalized groups. Now it's LGBTQ. It's grotesque anyway.
Yes.
And then Obama, I forget what it was, but there was something like $500 million in student debt, which is horrifying in itself. And then Obama in 2010 got the bright idea, because the government was guaranteeing bank loans. So the banks got to look over, if a student wanted a loan to study, feminist Marxism. I don't know that this specifically is the case, but they might say, well, how are you going to get a job that will allow you to pay back the loan? They're so practical, bankers. So what Obama did was he took banks out of the picture.
Right.
And so from 2010 to now, the student debt has metastasized to where it's $1.5 trillion. And this is a terrible atrocity against young people.
Mm-hmm.
But since you probably haven't heard this from somebody else, young people don't know who their enemy is.
That's
Their enemies are.
a great point. Yes.
And that's a big problem.
That is a big problem. We actually have a question from one of the listeners, and it says, do you think that this breakdown has the potential to eventually cause a civil war in this country?
No, we are in a civil war. You can't have a civil war because the federal government is too powerful.
Wow. Okay.
Now, do you see the type of persecution that's like happening in China and Nigeria and other countries with Christians coming here to America?
Would you repeat that?
Do you see the same type of persecutions like happening in China and Nigeria as far as the persecution of the Christians? You see that?
Oh, what are
coming
you
into America?
kidding? Even if Cortez is the wave of the future force, They're going to create a gulag, and you and I will be in it.
Yes. Yes.
You just have to listen to Cortez. What does she say? How are you going to pay for this? Oh, we're going to print money. We're going to do what they did during the Second World War. In other words, we'll have a wartime mobilization, like when they put thousands of Japanese in internment camps. So we're giving the government absolute power. These are communists.
Yeah.
And it's terrible that that word has fallen out of use, but it's an accurate description of who these airheads are.
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi's case,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
she's a prisoner. Well, she was always a much further leftist than people gave her credit for. Her hero was Harry Bridges, who was a Soviet agent.
Right.
Wow.
But Pelosi, the reason Pelosi knuckles under to Ilhan Omar is because the Black Caucus, which is we have an article at Front Page by Daniel Greenfield on how corrupt and racist the Black Caucus is, but it's really frightening. I mean, this is a caucus which has, you get the name of which of at $100 in his freezer. Excuse me for laughing.
Yeah.
Which has Hank Johnson, who, in hearings with an admiral from the Navy, actually asked him if putting 25,000 new Marines on Guam would capsize the island. It's on YouTube. But the head of the Black Caucus, of course, the Black Caucus has welcomed Louis Farrakhan with open arms, but Clymer, who runs the Black Caucus,
He's a cancer.
is a Farrakhanite. That's a Jew hater.
Yep.
That's a white hater.
Yep.
That's an America hater. Louis Farrakhan went to Tehran to chant "Death to America."
Yeah, I saw that.
That's who the Black. But so the Black Caucus, the Democratic Party can't get elected dog catcher without blacks.
Right.
And so these corrupt racists in Congress, Maxine Waters is just the most vocal of them, although she's been really eclipsed by this.
Now, in your
Omar
opinion,
woman.
are you seeing the black support starting to really, with the Blexit movement's really starting to move away from the Democratic Party? I mean, what is your opinion on the Electoral College and the non-citizens voting? I mean, that's another avenue that they're trying to.
Well, it's part of their plan to have a one-party state. The Electoral College was created to protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority, because the founders, they didn't believe in one person, one vote, because they didn't trust people.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Here's how brilliant the founders were.
Yeah.
They looked at history and they said, well, monarchies and tyrannies don't work,
Christian
because you get a
founders.
bad tyrant or a bad monarch, and it's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So they chose democracy, and they put sovereignty in the hands of the people. But then they put in all these checks and balances. The Senate originally was not elected; it was appointed.
Right.
And the Electoral College is another institution to curb the madness that overtakes the majority every now and then, as we can see daily.
Yes.
So they've attacked the First Amendment. The free speech. They're against free speech. We know that. There's no Democrats standing up for the free speech rights of conservatives. They've attacked the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms to defend your freedoms. And I believe it's the 12th Amendment. Excuse me. That's the Electoral College. They don't want borders. They want illegal non-citizens to vote. They're not only non-citizens, they're people who violated our borders. They want them to vote. They want felons to vote. They want children to vote. And they want you, when you go to the ballot box, they don't want any ID recognition so that their people can vote 100 times. They want to, and they've already said they want to abolish the Senate. It's just not on the top of their list because they're going to start with the Electoral College.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
Well,
they want a one-party state.
What do you think? I mean, we have people like Candace, what's her last name?
Owens.
Owens, yeah, coming
Candace
out.
Owens.
Yes, what an amazing.
I think Candace is a godsend. I have
Yes.
something to do with launching her.
Really?
Oh, really?
I told her when I met her. I told her, or I actually invited her to an event. That's where she met Charlie Kirk.
Oh, okay.
I told her, I said, I've been waiting for you to come along for 30 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
what a mouthpiece she
Yes,
is. What a mouthpiece
She
she is.
says it so well when she speaks. So
You know, while we're talking about Democrats,
The difference between a smart black female and a really stupid one, which is the leftists. But the left wants to conflate. They want all black people think alike. They're all leftists, and if they're not, they're race traitors.
yeah. So while we're
And
talking,
it's interesting.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I got a
you know,
question for you. Though.
how progressives make no distinction between jihadist Muslims who are a menace. And by the way, every single major Muslim organization in America is a Muslim Brotherhood front.
Exactly.
That's just a reality. And, there's plenty of literature that website you mentioned that I run that Discover the Networks.
yes.
You can look them up in there.
Okay.
And they now have a coalition of all these Muslim Brotherhood fronts. I think it's called the U.S. Muslim Coalition or something like
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Now, why do you think the Democrats are so much embracing Islam now? I mean, everything about Islam is contrary to Democratic beliefs, almost.
Because they hate America.
Yeah.
Right.
Wake up.
And I don't. I guess that's.
I mean, here's a woman.
Yeah.
Here's a woman who said 9/11 is about the persecution of Muslims.
Wow.
Muslims have slaughtered. They're responsible for 34,000 deadly terror attacks and the deaths of hundreds of thousands of infidels since 9/11. But they're the victims. There are Muslims like Zuhdi Yasser who stands up and says we don't want a theocratic Islam, which is Islam as it stands is a totalitarian political religion. That's what it is. There's no separation of church and state, and they control every aspect of your life, and they hate women, and of course gays. Anyway.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right. Which makes it's all so.
We sort of got away from the contents of my book.
Yeah, I see that we have.
Yes. But let's go. I mean,
My fault.
No. So back to your book, though. I mean, some of the stuff you talk a little bit about too. I mean, obviously, what made America the actual leader, and you talk about tolerance, equality, inclusion, and we saw that in a different light at one time. How does that look now, and how is that actually dying, if you will?
Well, it's simple. The communists on the San Antonio City Council, there are 6 Democrats, I think, voted to bar Chick-fil-A from having a restaurant. Same thing happened in Buffalo, New York. Why? Because they make bad chicken? No. Because their charitable arm gives money to a 501c3 nonprofit that promotes ideas they don't like.
Yeah.
Now, what is that?
Right. Exactly.
Anyway.
So what is our hope? What is our way of stemming it? Or
It's just a matter of whether ordinary Americans and conservative Americans wake up fast enough. I think that Cortez is doing us a great service, and Omar,
yeah, realizing
because
how idiots
of
we are.
their stupidity,
Right.
their arrogance. It's like when you encourage this, when you don't call people out when they're racist because their skin color happens to be dark. How racist is that, by the way?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
you encourage them. So the Democratic Party has been encouraging racists in its ranks for decades, for absolute decades. So the impact of what they're saying. And my problem is that Republicans are so polite and they don't want to point it out.
They're
Well,
scared.
yeah, that's too bad. That's why we're losing. If they can't have a backbone.
Yes. That's why Trump is great.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I mean, in thinking about that, I mean, I think at this time period, we have an excellent leader. But those that are around him, he has some great people around him. But then again, I mean, he's constantly fighting. It feels, I mean, the progression as far as what he wants to get done feels so slow because he's got somebody fighting him at every move he makes. And it's just the
No, he doesn't even have to make a move. Look, we've had 2 years of an attempted coup d'état
Yes.
in this country and a 2 years sabotage of the Trump presidency.
Is anybody going to have
The
a
Democratic Party
backbone to indict anybody on that?
Is a party of hate, and it's a treasonous party.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of, having to point this out all the time. And I wish that there were some Republicans who had some balls.
Yeah, to stand up.
To say it simply, absolutely. I mean,
Anyway, gentlemen, as you can hear, my voice isn't so great.
Yeah. No.
So we need I can't stay for an hour.
No,
Okay,
no,
that's
no,
fine.
sir. No, we appreciate the time again. This interview was with David Horowitz. He's an American conservative writer. He is the founder and president of the think tank, the David Horowitz Freedom Center, editor of the center's.
It's a battle tank, my friend.
battle tank.
Battle tank. I love it. Front Page Magazine, the director of Discover the Networks, a website that tracks individuals and groups on the political left. We had a great discussion about his new book, Dark Agenda: The War to Destroy Christian America.
where can they get that book?
Yes, where can they get that?
You can get it through Amazon, or you can go up to frontpagemag.com and get it there.
Yeah, be
You
sure to order
probably
your
can get
copy.
it off- I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was
didn't-
letting the audience know. Be sure to get your copy of Dark Agenda. David, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for your
every-
time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
So, yes, great discussion with David Horowitz. He had to go because, of course, his voice wasn't staying so long. But what an amazing topic. I mean, the problem is there's so many avenues that we could go with David Horowitz.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, his book is meaty.
He has a mind, and he says a lot of the things that we all want to say.
Right. Here's the thing, though. You get more people like David Horowitz out there to start talking like
Right.
this. See, that's the thing. Sometimes I'm sure he feels like a lone wolf. He's out there. He's saying something. He's doing all these things. He's crying out to everybody, letting them know. And you got to have more people coming up and doing the same thing.
Right.
And but again, that's how you affect change, by starting something like this. Thanks to David Horowitz and others like him. However, we do have a couple of guys with us tonight. We have Sam Romano. You can't see him on the camera. We also have our producer Mel and Elijah, and we are going to discuss a couple of things. But I think Sam had a couple of things he wanted to. I think you wanted to say something too. You had an awesome quote you wanted to give us too about. This was awesome. Who was the Ravi Zacharias?
Well, no,
quoted.
Quoted this guy.
Yeah, it was David Berlinski. He wrote the book Devil Delusion. I didn't know that Ravi Zacharias quoted him, but Mike, you said that he did. But no, he says that.
Sam, by the way, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
No, but what he says in his book, he says, has anyone provided proof of God's inexistence? Not even close. Has quantum cosmology explained the emergence of the universe or why it is here? Not even close. Have our sciences explained why our universe seems to be fine-tuned to allow for the existence of life? Not even close. Are physicists and biologists willing to believe in anything so long as it is not religious thought? Close enough. Has rationalism and moral thought provided us with an understanding of what is good, what is right, and what is moral? Not close enough. Has secularism in the terrible 20th century been a force for good? Not even close to being close. Is there a narrow and oppressive orthodoxy in the sciences? Close enough. Does anything in the sciences of their philosophy justify the claim that religious belief is irrational? Not even in the ballpark. Is scientific atheism a frivolous exercise in intellectual concept? Dead on.
Yeah. And again, that guy is he's an atheist.
I'm not sure exactly what he is,
Yeah.
but I know he's not a Christian.
Yeah.
But he stands up for the beliefs and realizing like.
See, again,
There's
that comes
proof.
down to some people, even though they don't believe in our Creator, they have common sense.
Well, not only that, I mean, and also they, going back to Mr. Horowitz, who was on, is that they may not believe, but at least they have respect or an understanding of what the founding of this nation was.
That's the key.
And that's what he's going to defend. I mean, he said himself, he's an agnostic.
Yes.
Okay, he's an agnostic who is standing up for the principles on which this nation was founded upon.
Exactly.
So, that is the defense.
And when we asked him, it's like, okay, you said as a Jew,
Mm-hmm.
why are you sticking up for Christians? Because I love America.
Right.
If I love America and what it stands for, I love its principles.
Right.
I might not believe exactly the way that you do. Guess what? But that's the freedom that the founders set up. You can worship the way that you choose to. That it's not harming somebody, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that. We believe in God, of course. But again, this guy is saying it like it is, and he's agreeing with, just like you said, with the principles that were set
I mean, I
up.
think the Declaration of Independence was framed around biblical principles.
Yes, it was. People argue that, but however, come on, these guys.
Anybody with half a brain could figure it out.
They were Christian. You know what I mean? They believed in this. The God that they spoke of was
Mhm.
not just like the God of this or the God of that. It was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
So yeah,
It was really a privilege to have him on, and it's refreshing to hear people who don't subscribe to the faith like
Yep.
we do.
Yep.
Don't have the passion that we do of knowing the Creator and knowing who Christ is.
right.
But are willing to stand up and say, what you guys are doing on the opposite side of us is not correct,
Yeah.
is not right.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to the basics. I mean, I love the fact that he even brought up that in the 60s is when we removed prayer out of schools.
Yeah.
Why is him an agnostic even care that we removed prayer out of schools? Why? Because he knows where the standard and the precedent was started
Yeah.
as and what the backbone of this country was
You
needed.
can't deny the fruit
Right.
that is born from something like that.
Right.
You can't. When you see fruit, now look at the fruit of the labor of the Democratic Party right now. I'm serious. And you know what? I mean, it sounds like
Is it fruit?
right. No, it's not fruit. It's not. It's rotten something.
Yes.
But Sam, you go to college, all right? I mean, it's not like a university right now, but eventually it will be probably. I don't know what you're going to, but in your take right now, what is the feeling that you get as you talk to somebody who's about 73 years old that we just talked to, and you hear his perception? This guy went back and he came out of that. What's your take on how you feel, what you see right now in a college?
I see if I could summarize it in one word, it'd be confusion. I'm surrounded by people who are around my age, early 20s, 18, 19 years old, who have absolutely no idea, and they're getting pumped just all this different knowledge that's wrong and false and contrary to the Word of God.
But somebody's getting them excited about it.
And it's something that they can, maybe it won't last for forever,
Mhm.
but it's something that they can hold on to, like, oh well, if it's that professor is saying it, then it must be true, kind of thing.
I've heard this testimony. I heard somebody talk about this. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show before too, but it was on another commentator was talking about how there's a woman who years ago she was also in college, and she left the Christian faith because of a professor. She fell in love, not in love with him, but in his ideas and what he was doing, what he was saying. She's like, and it took a matter of, I mean, Christian your whole life, a matter of months, to where all of a sudden she was walking a completely different path, all because this guy was excited about something different, and she believed it. He had a very good, eloquent way of saying things, and therefore she followed suit. Of course, she came back realizing that she was brainwashed. But this is what's happening on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad.
Yeah, and something that he mentioned is that we have to act fast, and especially in colleges and universities, especially because that's where a lot of the next generation is going, and they have to know the truth. And I think it was last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago we had the Youth Sunday at Rock Solid
it was
Church.
amazing.
And Ethan Tomlinson, he had said that that it comes fast and it comes quick. And God, we don't know the day, we don't know the time, we don't know the hour. But when it happens, we don't get another chance at it.
Right.
It happens in a snap. Adam and Eve, when they were kicked out of the garden, and they made one choice and that was it.
Right.
They don't have a second chance. Noah, all the corrupt people of the world, God said that he was trying to find like who's still righteous on the planet, and God found Noah and his family, but everyone else, as soon as that flood hit and they were mocking Noah for building the ark and everything, and as soon as the rain started, they were gone. Everyone was wiped off the face of the planet. It's the same thing with and then when Jesus came and died on the cross, and that sin was forgiven. I mean, that the sin was broken, the power of that sin. And so for us to, especially like primarily for someone who's in college and as a young man, if I don't act and if I don't stand up and if I don't say anything, knowing the truth, then I'm no better than any of the people that mocked Noah on the boat or
Sam, how old are
anything
you?
else. I'm not 18.
Eight.
Sure, he's not 30.
Yeah, 18 years old. I know who his father is, but
Yes.
not only that, you know what's cool about it? He's not stemming off his father's faith. This
Right.
is his own faith.
Right.
So,
Hey, you're
kudos,
watching
yeah.
the Ken and Mike show. We just got done talking to David Horowitz about his book, Dark Agenda. Was it The War to Destroy Christianity in America?
Yeah.
The number's right there on the bottom of the screen. If you want to chime in on this conversation, feel free. We'll put you live on the air. This is a really good topic, and it's something we really should dive into as being a Christians. What is our defense? What should we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And do we just sit back and take it?
Yeah.
Or do we be proactive and get involved? And, too much people have been sitting back and just letting things happen.
Right.
And slowly it's been deteriorating underneath our feet. When do we stand up for truth? How do we speak the truth? Do it in love, obviously.
Yeah.
But how do we stem this back? Because you and I have talked many times. We are not far from everything that we know here in America just being gone in a matter of a few years.
Right.
We've seen it happen in countries, around the world where they cave into the socialism, the communist ideology, thinking that, well, no one's doing it right, we're going to set it up and be perfect about it. And within just a couple years, if not, maybe a handful of years, the whole bottom drops out.
All because if somebody has some special eloquent of speech, like Obama, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, you just say something just so eloquent enough, and all of a sudden you believe it, and all of a sudden there's no follow through, and then it's not what you thought it was. See, this is the problem all the time. Things get just rammed and jammed, and we jump into things without just going first back to the principles,
Right.
Especially biblical principles, of course. And we talk about, okay, guess what? A three-stranded cord can't easily be broken. There's power when we're united.
Right.
Where brothers and sisters dwell in unity, there God commands a
Commands
blessing. There's a wisdom in a multitude.
Right.
But a multitude, of course, when you're at the top, you need more than just your little surrounding people. You need the whole people, because it's everybody's voice together, and we come together and collaborate. Not just one person saying this is how we're going to do it. That's called a dictator, and that's where we're kind of going, if we don't do something, as if you're saying.
What are our options now? I mean, I'm not like a person to be all pro rah Trump. I mean, I'm not the
Well, we talk about faith perspective, right?
Right.
I think it comes down to perspective. People have all various kinds of perspectives, but they're getting it from something. So it's not about going and just trying to. Unfortunately, some of this has to be erased. But I think what he just said, and he's not a Christian, but he said, it's going and it's loving, it's coming along, and encouraging others to do the same.
right.
And that's what we need to do. Is coming along saying, look, I'm not here to argue with you, but let's look at a couple of things. This is what's going on. This is what it looks like. how can you say this is good? Because I'll tell you, I had somebody who's a Christian recently say to me, Kenny, I just feel, and I've heard this a lot from other people too, and I want to get your take on it.
Here we go with the feelings.
Yeah. Well, it's not my feeling. So I had, and I think everybody who's listening too, I think that you can relate to this, and please chime in, because I think this is a great topic. We should have a whole show on this.
Right. Feel free. Call in. Numbers there. Be involved.
What do you think about this, though? What is your take on this? And because it can look like this, especially when, listen, life is hard, okay? And we can easily get weighed down by the hurts and the pains and the stuff, because it can become overwhelming. And it really does look like there's way more negative, bad, than there is good. And sometimes when you all of a sudden just get hit with that, it's hard to see the reasoning behind all this. Like, what the heck? Why are we even doing this?
Well, thank God we're Christians. The Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight. If we were let everything that goes around us influence our world, then, like you're saying, everything that's negative that we see going, oh, shoot, it's not even worth talking anymore,
Yeah.
Just wave the flag and we'll just lay down and we'll just take it.
Yeah.
But I like what David Horowitz said was, he used a different term, but I'll say testicular fortitude. He said you have to be willing to call it out when you see it, whatever it is.
Yeah. And not being scared.
Right.
We
Don't
all
be
have
scared. Just
a right to
and I think
opinion.
that's the problem is because everybody's afraid. And
PC.
I'll be honest, I don't enter a lot of topics and a lot of conversations. Because I'm afraid I'll be called a bigot. Yeah. I'm afraid I'll be called racist. I'm afraid that I'll be
not to your face on maybe on the Facebooks and stuff like that. That's where it comes from.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Now, if we can lose the labels, sit down and have a conversation, I think
coffee.
a lot of this can be filtered out. A lot of this could be hashed out. But if you're automatically coming from a predisposition of what I already think of you without actually hearing it out, that's where the problem comes from. You got to be willing to step up and just say, hey, that is wrong and this is why.
That second part's important. This is why.
Right.
Well, that's wrong. Why is it wrong? Well, because this is the other thing. This is how I feel about it. Sorry, the conversation's over. When you're ready to actually talk about substance, then we can talk.
Right. Well, like that one caller we had the very first time we did a show.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
He wanted to just sit there and throw everything at us. Well, because the Bible says this, the Bible says this, the Bible says this. You're nothing but a bunch of blah, 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 blah. Where does this say it?
Well, not only that, we couldn't slow down to actually just talk about it.
Right. And again, it was an attack. It was an antagonistic thing. But if we can come to the table, have a conversation, and we'll break it down piece by piece, I'm not always going to be right. It might shock you.
Yeah.
But I may not always be right. And I'll be able to sit back and we can hash it out. And we can talk about it. Iron sharpens iron, Scripture says, right?
It does. It does. Yeah, absolutely. I tell you,
I just left Kenny
No,
speechless.
I just think it gets my mind twirling. Here, listen. It is when you see when you're surrounded by all this stuff, and I think again, as Christians, even as a Christian, people. I think one of the problem lies with some people have that misconception. But I believe in God. I'm a Christian. Why is life so hard then? Who told you it was going to be easy when you became a Christian? Because guess what? When you signed up, that's why I think when I tell somebody, look at becoming a Christian, putting your faith in God. Guess what? Get ready for a ride. It can be a thrill ride depending on how you look at it. It can be an amazing roller coaster ride, and it is going to be up and down. But the benefit, the reward, like Paul said. Remember Paul? He was persecuted. All these guys were, but he pressed towards the upward call, the prize of the upward call in Christ Jesus. Because there is an upward call and there is a prize. What's that prize? It's heaven. We're heaven bound. But if we get our eyes off that, which is very easy to do for anybody, all of us, we're going to lose out. We're
I'd
going
like
to
to ask you a question.
Sam.
Since you are of the younger generation, do you find it more and more difficult to be able to speak what you know is truth, with like the things I had brought up about being feared of being labeled bigoted, prejudiced? I think most of people your age fall on the other side of the spectrum. How do you deal with it?
I think that the formula stays the same. I think that the key is as a believer and entering into conversations like that is you have to look at, okay, how did Jesus deal with this? Because He's the formula that we have to look at. He's the perfect model that we can look at, because he dealt with all, if not all of them, a lot of these situations right in the Gospels, and we can see that. So how did he deal with people who were calling him names, and how did he do it? He did it with love, and he did it with compassion. I think we were talking about this earlier, is that sure, he did it with love and compassion, but he also did it, and he said the truth, and the truth isn't always a feel-good type of thing. The truth, it cuts, and the Bible says that the truth cuts and separates bone and marrow, and soul and spirit. But at the end of the day, truth is truth.
Yes.
Well, I would immediately call into question anybody's faith or anybody's character if they read the Bible, they weren't offended.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
When anything that's brought up before me, I wouldn't see fault in my own life if I wasn't comparing it to that. And if you're not offended by it, then
That's offense is a key word. Sam and I were discussing it earlier. His sisters wrote some. One in particular, she's really great in English. She wrote a paper and she said something specific, and she blatantly put, the truth is this. And it happened to do, I don't know if it was pro-life or whatever it was. However, the teacher, and she's amazing at English, but the teacher gave her I believe it was a 60.
Yep.
Yeah, and circled that point and said, this is offensive. Because she put truth. This you said directly, this is the truth. And that's the thing. It was yes, I agree, and we were saying this, we agree, it is offensive, but you don't like it, and you don't get to choose what the truth is.
right, is truth subjective or is it objective?
Right.
And I would argue truth is objective, or else, because as C.S. Lewis would say, how would you not know what a straight line is if you hadn't first seen a crooked line? You have to be able to compare it to something. Where does our truth come from?
Right.
And that standard
Right.
is
Right.
Christ.
Right.
It's the Word.
Well, if truth was subjective, then we wouldn't need God, because
Right.
God is the objective truth. He's the only truth.
Right.
And so to say that we can add on to the truth is saying that we can just add anything to the Bible, and the Bible we might as well throw it out if we're just adding on to anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what said. Look, if you're going to test everybody on a certain thing, or they have to read it necessary, they want to speak their mind of where their hearts are at, and you line up other purposes, and it's not offensive. I mean, again, who made you judge and jury, or the dictator there of saying this is offensive or this is offensive? I mean, that's where, and what David Horowitz was pointing out, that's where the country's kind of going. They're brainwashing society into thinking a certain way, and if you don't do it that way, then it's offensive.
Right.
Okay, but we say it's not. So what? I mean, there's two sides here. Which side are we going to be on? You know what I mean? So I mean, I think that's the Civil War he was alluding to too. By the way.
Well, he says we're already in it.
Yeah, we're already in it.
We're already in it.
And it's with our words. It's with our words. Good point, Sam. So yeah, you're listening to the Ken and Mike Show right here on Facebook Live. It is a great show tonight.
Yeah, we have a few minutes left, so
Yeah.
if you want to chime in, feel free. The number's there at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to like us on YouTube. Follow us, as Malaysia would say. Make sure they hit the bell.
The bell. What's
Hit the
the bell? Malaysia.
Tell us what the bell is.
What's the bell?
Can you tell
I
us what the
subscribe.
bell is?
Is there a difference? Why don't you tell
What's
our
the bell
audience
do?
what they need to do to subscribe and to help the Ken and Mike
Yes.
Show?
Well, glad for having me on
Yeah,
the show.
yes.
But so on YouTube, you have to not only subscribe to the show to get notifications, you have to hit that bell so that every time that we go live, every time that we post a video, you get a notification.
Okay.
Because YouTube sometimes they don't like conservative Christian views, and you may not know that we're live or that we're there, that we have a show.
Interesting. Okay.
So hitting that bell.
Yeah.
So you heard it. You
Subscribe.
heard it from the producer yourself,
Yeah.
right from his own mouth. Hit the bell.
Hit the bell.
Follow us on Instagram. Our email
Is the
what is our email?
the Ken and Mike Show at gmail.com, and that is AND in the middle.
And
there,
don't
so-
forget, if you hit us up on our email, that offer still stands from last week.
Oh.
We're not gonna start it till somebody chimes in and wants to do it
Yeah,
with
yeah,
us.
right,
we
right.
want to do the 120-day Bible challenge.
Yes,
And-
after May, what is it? When school ends? Yeah.
And if you do it, whoever completes it with us and follows it through, because we'll interact through email to make sure that we're all doing it.
Yeah.
We get it done. We're going to send you a free Ken and Mike.
T-shirt.
But what's
T-shirt,
interesting
yeah.
is that we could do it on U version, the Bible app, so that way we can stay connected with whoever's
So now
doing
you're
it.
telling me that the Ken and Mike show has to now get the U version app too. Man, we're gonna be all over the
I've
place.
got that. I got that app.
Well,
So do I.
I read the
personally,
Bible,
we do.
Mike.
But the show, we don't have it for the show, so you have
Right.
to sign up with the show and get it. So that way, anybody who wants to join us, they can join. We can follow along
Right.
and know that they're doing it, and they're doing it with
And-
us,
and
and we
I-
can
and
do
I'm-
it together.
Thinking about doing the mugs thing too.
Yes.
So
Yes.
y-
Hey, do
more
I
of an
get a
incentive.
mug, Mike?
You got to finish the
I
challenge.
got to finish the challenge, but I'm part of the. Okay,
Uh,
I'll do the challenge.
Hey, I'm not making them till I finish the challenge too. So we're all in it.
And by the way, for anybody who's listening, I mean, those who are local, listen. Opportunity. If you have a great discussion you want to bring up, you can do that by emailing us. And hey, maybe you have a chance to come on live on the show as well. That's a
Absolutely.
possibility. If you have some content you want to bring out here, please let
Yeah,
us know.
we still got to talk about that one topic with
Yes.
was brought in by a listener who wants to really weigh in on the immunization thing. and,
Immunizations, vaccines. What do we
Yep.
think about that? I mean, again, we have our opinions. I definitely have an opinion about that.
I have no opinion.
Really?
No, it's not true.
Oh.
What have you ever known me not to have an opinion?
Yeah, I know. What am I? So yeah, so Mel, what else? What else can people do to get in on this show, man?
What they also could do is support us.
Yes.
We're working on a way for people to support the show. Besides subscribing and on Facebook and YouTube and following us on Instagram and Twitter, but also supporting us. Maybe you're a local business owner and you want to kind of support the show. We're trying to find a way of having people to be able to support us besides just subscribing on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, but also supporting us. So partnering with us as we are speaking about truth.
Yes.
Right.
Speaking about our freedoms that we have in America, where other countries sometimes don't have this opportunity. And so to use the opportunity and support somebody else who's doing it, because not everybody can go into the mission field,
Right.
but you can support somebody going into the mission field. And in the same way, you can't maybe do a radio show, but we can support people who are doing radio shows and who are doing YouTube. So it's a great way to be a part of the show, maybe not, an on-air person, but maybe supporting us. So we're trying to work on a way of getting that to people and be able to support us if they want to partner with us. And that's a great way to do it also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and it wouldn't fall on deaf ears either, because I mean, you get the statistics, and we're looking it up on the email. I'm not saying we're huge, but we're having some momentum.
Yeah,
I mean, our
absolutely.
show is getting anywhere between 400 and 500 views. It's incredible. So right now it's an opportunity to get it on the ground floor, if you will.
And the more help we get, the better
Right.
quality that we can present.
Because we've been in talks with other people,
Yep.
names we won't mention
Yep,
right now,
yep.
but we've been in talks with other people that there's a possibility of us networking
Yep.
and growing this even bigger.
And creating a platform.
Right,
That's
and
right,
because there's conservative talks, which now you're seeing the liberal influence getting in on them, but I don't see this type of platform where it's conservative, pro-America, but everything through the faith perspective. And this is an opportunity where we're also you also don't see the platform where we're welcoming live guests. Please come on. You're going to be the production people per se, because we want you to provide the content. What's
That's right.
important to you
Yes.
that you want to hear us talk about on the air? Because
Sometimes you pop on the radio, you listen to somebody, and
Right.
it's sometimes great content.
right,
But maybe it's not the subject you're hoping to hear.
Right.
So you can put your 2 cents in.
like we've always said, whether it be problems with Christianity, whether it be
Yeah.
problems with the Scripture, things you don't have the opportunity to ask your pastor. It's going to be a non-judgment free zone. We're going to hash it out. We're just going to talk it out.
Well, I'll tell you what. I had somebody approach me the other day. They said, "You guys, I want to hear on your show. I want to hear what do you guys think about tattoos, and what do you guys think about drinking wine?"
Really,
Yeah,
these are all things that we can talk about.
Yep.
While we're drinking wine and getting tattoos.
Tattoos and wine.
Yeah. That's
a great
show
show.
everybody the butterfly in the back there.
My little tramp stamp.
Wow, you see tramp? No.
Oh shoot! Can't say that on the air now.
So listen, guys, we're coming to the end here, but Sam, Mel, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Man, I'll tell you what, we have a great guest next week as well, David Horowitz. Again, if you ever watch this, thank you so much. We're so excited that you were able to join us. We have Dr.
Land.
Dr. Richard Land. who was actually part of the board of
The evangelical board
evangelical
for
board for Donald
Trump.
He's coming on next Tuesday. We're going to talk to him, and we got so much more coming. So
Yeah, we have a lot coming up. He's also an apologist.
yes,
So, those would be opportunities you want to ask questions to call in and talk to you
join
about
us,
that.
guys, next Tuesday, 8
8 p.m.
p.m.
Eastern Standard Time
for the Ken and Mike Show.
The Ken and Mike Show.